Why is Guantánamo Bay back in the news? Although the naval base in Cuba is most commonly known as a high-security prison for foreign terrorism suspects following the September 11th attacks, the new Trump administration is now using the base for immigration and painting the move as common practice.
We've always had a presence of illegal immigrants there that have been detained. We're just building out some capacities.
What you probably don't know, there's already a migrant center there. It's been there for decades. So we're just going to expand upon the existing migrant center.
But those statements are misleading. The U.S. has had a history of holding migrants in the base, but what Trump is doing is very different. So how has Guantánamo Bay been used to detain migrants previously? And what's different about Trump's approach? First, he's sending people from the U.S. to Guantánamo Bay. Migrants who've previously been held at the base were intercepted at sea and never stepped foot in the U.S. Second, he's holding some of them in the prison where terrorism suspects were detained. Migrants have historically been held in the Migrant Operations Center, a different part of the base. And third, he's planning to significantly increase capacity. The Migrant Center has the capacity to detain 130 people and hasn't held many people in the last few years. Trump is planning to detain 30,000. The U.S. started holding migrants in Guantánamo Bay in the 90s. At the time, Cuba and Haiti were experiencing political and economic turmoil, leading people to flee their homes in hopes of seeking asylum in the U.S. The U.S. Coast Guard held the Cubans and Haitians they intercepted at sea in Guantánamo Bay. In September 1994, 12,000 Haitians and 33,000 Cubans were held in Guantánamo Bay's Migrant Operations Center, in tent-like structures surrounded by razor wire. Some people were allowed to apply for asylum, but few got it. The migrant camp closed in 1996, but in recent years, some Cubans and Haitians intercepted at sea have continued to be held there. DHS didn't tell us how many people were being held there, but the New York Times reported the center had held 37 people from 2020 to 2023 and 4 people as of February 2024.
Individuals detained there have passed fear screenings, have established that they cannot be returned to their country of origin, but they are not allowed to be resettled in the United States.
People must choose between returning to the country they're fleeing or waiting in Guantánamo Bay indefinitely for a third country to accept them. Human rights groups have been outspoken about the migrant center's conditions.
We're talking about lack of access to any health care that would suffice for the children and adults who are detained there. We're talking about unsanitary conditions, mold growing on walls, toilets that don't function, water that is not potable. These are grave, grave conditions to subject anyone to.
Legal experts told us Trump's proposal raises numerous questions. The administration has provided limited and conflicting information about who has been sent to Guantánamo, how long they'll be there, where they'll be held, and under what conditions.
Individuals who are living in the United States, who may be detained in the United States, have a panoply of rights. These are constitutional rights, these are statutory rights. People must have access to counsel. People are not allowed to be detained indefinitely, and those rights do not disappear when the government forcibly transfers someone to Guantánamo.
U.S. officials say they will ensure that due process will be followed, but they haven't clarified how. Several human rights organizations sued the government on February 12th, saying immigrants sent to Guantánamo Bay did not have access to lawyers or to their families. It's also unclear how long the migrants will be at Guantánamo Bay under Trump's plan.
My goal is that people are not in these facilities for weeks and months. My goal is that there's a short-term stay. They're able to go incarcerate them, take them, follow the process, and get them back to their country.
That's your goal, but
yes.
You're not ruling out that they could be there for weeks.
I'm not going to rule that out.
The Supreme Court ruled in 2001 that people can't be indefinitely held in immigration detention, so trying to keep people there indefinitely would likely lead to additional lawsuits.
This transfer of individuals to Guantánamo is one of many recent manifestations of the Trump administration seeking to push the bounds of the law, to test what the judiciary will do, what government institutions will do, what American society will accept.